motherfucker.
N-word.
Pause it for a second. Pause it for a second.
Close. Not quite. Hello, humans. Welcome to Audio Face, an irreverent podcast about the music news and music culture that is demure and mindful. I'm Dan.
I am Sean.
You're a little too boomer to get that joke, but it's okay. I'm a little too boomer to start the show properly, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It's like I'm staring at it, and then I'm like listening to the music because I do enjoy the song, and then I just spaced out, but it's all good. This is episode 315 of this here fine established podcast, and we have 3 albums for you. Fan requested Larry June, album named Doing It For Me, Romance by Fontaines DC, friend of Dan, and Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay. We have that, plus we have a decent amount of like substantive music news, which we, this used to be a really music news heavy show, almost as much as the albums.
For a long time, and then
like during COVID, when there was just like less stuff happening, and also the fact that, as I've talked in the Dan from the Internet world, news is getting increasingly more gutted, and it's just like algorithmic trash that's meant to go viral as opposed to like provide substance. And so other than like our occasional music business worldwide Slim Pickens episode like moments and genuine music news that for some reason doesn't have actual music attached to it, we've been staying pretty clear, only covering either the quick hits, the really fun stuff, but we got some really substantive fun things and some fun stuff here. Substantive things and fun stuff. I said the substantive things are less fun, but we do have some fun stuff that is substantive. And less fun for Drake. a lot of dancing, a lot of moving around here, a lot of hockey team naming. Let's start the show. First, we have Drake has. Well, we know that Drake is still, I'm not sure, recovering, processing, dealing with the aftermath of the Kendrick Lamar beef with Not Like Us coming out. I'll be real, like song came out in like late May. I'm not hearing it that much anymore. Time moves faster. The song was like, good and catchy, but it was like definitely going to be like a song of the moment. It wasn't really like a lasting value song, Not Like Us, right? So, it's done. I don't necessarily need to hear it anymore. It's definitely like kind of
we're good. Yeah, it had its moment. It's gone. We're chilling.
The Meet the Grams Jersey Club remix though, still bopping. I will say that. Sickos up 500 points.
First off, Meet the Grams is a forever bop because we are sickos. That one
and we still believe that Drake's current downfall is not enough and that we can still go further. So
absolutely, I want a whole record.
Oh, I want a whole arrest record for Drake. So, nevertheless, how many times you got to teach you this lesson, old man? .mp4. At this point, I should really have that as like not even a sound drop, but like a video clip, kind of like I have this video clip saved here for such an occasion.
Rap beef, nigga.
Punk ass,
Geritone, nigga. Big niggas.
Stomp them in the nuts. I'ma stomp them in the nuts. Stomp them in the nuts. I'ma stomp them in the nuts.
How many times you got to teach you this lesson, old man? .mp4. Because Drake is sending more subliminals this time in unreleased music. He's been doing this interesting thing where he has been pseudo leaking, like in a leak sort of format, been releasing old material, behind the scenes studio stuff, little snippets. I think like 100 songs are there. Some of it's new, a lot of it's not. A lot of it's just like behind the scenes things and like remixes and demos.
Yeah.
It's fan service stuff that all artists of like a certain following who can like monetize that can do. So like on face value, I don't really care that much in the context of this old-fashioned ass thrashing that Drake got from Kendrick Lamar. I think it's really interesting that he's not really nutting up to the moment here. But there were 3 songs on here. You had some features. Playboy Cardi is on one of them. No Face and Circadian Rhythm, among others, were released on this. New songs were even added this Sunday when we're recording on the 25th of August. Are we listening to them? No. We will not listen to any more Drake than necessary. And frankly, other than the fact that we need to hear what his full LP wax response is to gestures at everything. I'm not really interested in listening to too much more Drake music, frankly.
No.
Even in a journalistic sense, because it's just like, what are we doing here? And you know what? When you listen to these tracks as well, I'll let you, because I know you want to speak as well. It's very much, these songs could have been released in 2023 or 2020 or 2017 of Drake. The only difference is the added fact that he got sunned by Kendrick Lamar, and he likes to believe that, well, the beef was unfair because it was 100 people fighting against me. So has he learned anything? No. Are we going to listen to Drake voluntarily? No. But we did listen to No Face and Circadian Rhythm. So I'm curious about your thoughts on the songs and the situation, Sean.
It's just okay. I mean, it's funny to see him trying to like tiptoe beef is kind of what I call it. And I'm like, dude, if you're gonna beef, just go full gas, man. Like,
So
don't...
this is gonna be an episode of, should I do it? This is gonna be an episode of like outdated phrases. And here's one you shouldn't use, but Drake is pussyfooting. Like Drake is being a bitch right now. Drake is like, let me dip my toes into the water a little bit. I don't know.
Let me hit a little thing here there. I'm like, dude, you got like mollywopped by Kendrick Lamar, and some like 5-year-olds that have been dancing to it all summer.
Oh, jacuzzi water too hot. Sorry. Big toe, my big toe. Can't do it. Yeah, no. This is
Pretty much.
This is bad. Like,
It is.
we need to now put Drake to the standard that, I mean, this is funny that I just thought of it. We need to now put Drake to the standard that his fans believe he is. But also, like, for the love of the game, truly for the love of the game, we need to put Drake up to the standard of someone who has been in a high-profile rap beef. And Drake has been in this position many times before and come back from it. This is not looking like one of those times. I mean,
Right, yeah.
there's, in a pure, like, shock and awe factor, Keeping Up with the Kardashians gets numbers. Elon Musk's X.com gets numbers. More on that later. Doesn't necessarily mean people like it. People pay attention to car crashes and bloody accidents. Hey, Sean and I, like, he was not sent but be the cast the first stone, all right? Doesn't mean that car crashes and accidents are good.
No.
Like, for society as a whole, not good. For morbid sickos, a nice Saturday afternoon. But,
a nice little, hey, you want to go rubbernecking? I mean, sometimes you got to do.
And guess what? For content creators who will love to, like, be I told you so and shit on Drake, we will eat too, just as much as the content creators like academics who are not writing Drake are going to say, like, no, actually, he's being really pivotal by copying something that someone else has been doing for 5 years just so we can ride the clout rave. Like, yeah.
Well, I don't know about AK, but
more, actually, we don't even have the Axe story on the rundown, but heard they got your boy on sex assault charges. Allegedly. Listen, we're running it through the courts, and
What's the side? It's all the police report per Tiger Woods.
I'll jump on the grenade here. If they decide that academics has done some really terrible crimes, then then he should be referred to whatever moniker best describes those crimes. More on that later. So,
Might be a way to download something, you know?
I don't know. Listen, I feel good about everything I've just said. Everything. Back to Drake though. No Face, Circadian Rhythm. Even if I'm taking the Kendrick stuff out of it, Drake's not doing anything new. Drake's not doing anything special. I think he has one line of like his therapist is quitting on him because all he talks about is beef and women and business. And it's like
Yeah, all that crap.
Kendrick, as sick of a human being as he is, was genuinely and multiple times like, oh no, this is a rap beef and I'm gonna get my licks in because like everyone's watching. But I am the only person who can help you out of your situation right now. Please take my hand and maybe this will get less ugly for you. He mentions this a lot in like Euphoria, 616 in LA, like this thing about Drake having these like inner demons, gambling issues, womanizing issues, you know, the other major and minor problem, so to speak, right? So like he is not showing any growth from that. He's not showing any evolution from that. And I feel like any rapper, you know, like a lot of rappers get their careers sort of, or you know, historically would get their careers ended by these sort of things. A lot of rappers will still like go in a different direction and at least like musically do interesting things, even if people aren't paying attention post their rap beef, especially post losing their rap beef. I mean, in my opinion, some of Meek Mill's most interesting music came after the Drake rap beef, right? So there's room for this. There's room for me to see this. But I've never believed, and I think it's like one of the better bets that you can make, that Drake is never going to mature up for the moment and what's being called for right now. And you
Hell
definitely get this in these two songs.
Hell
Moving on.
All right.
Audioface.show for all the things. This is actually, I want to get into yeah, we've got some, I forgot the Drake thing. But yes, Chappell Roan, she released her you know, like big album that came out last year. We reviewed it this year because she's just been like having a meteoric rise and moment in pop stardom, being sort of like queer and campy and doing all these things, but also like as a pop star, someone who has, when you look more into her story, she had tried success before and was like on the verge of being dropped by her labels and her deals because they weren't happy with her performance. And then, you know, miracles happened. But, you know, she's been enjoying a lot of the success, but she's been seeing something and she's been unfortunately experiencing things that we've been noticing other artists speak out about and talk about on AudioFace before. And it's always, I think, been an issue that I think we haven't paid a lot of attention to because of, you know, societal norms. But especially after 2020, like even after like a lot of the Me Too era, after 2020, we just noticed this thing that we were talking about on AudioFace a lot, where people just do not know how to behave at concerts, and they will just start like touching and groping and trying to run on stage and, you know, like get these viral moments and they'll like throw stuff at all these artists, and all these artists are getting really upset because this is the internet has like really messed up people's brains, and especially like young folks who don't have any other context to interaction beyond this. And now I've become old man yells at cloud, but it's really just like what I'm observing. It's that there are certain standards, there are certain norms, there are certain rules to existing out in public, and it doesn't matter. Being famous does not mean like, yeah, there's some things that you might not want to deal with, like maybe you are not having a good day but someone recognizes you and for 3 minutes you suck it up and like spend some time with them and take a selfie with them or whatever and like make their day, and you work with that. There's some of the things you deal with being famous along with other benefits. But
Yeah,
when it comes to like inappropriate touching, when it comes to stalking, when it comes to things that Chappelle Rose talked about, was like people are reaching out to her family and stalking her family who have nothing to do with the music industry. It's like, this is far beyond touch grass territory. This is a mental health problem. And I almost hate saying that because you can be mentally ill and also not be a prick who disrespects people. So I hate like these things, but this is a, you know, crisis where people, you know, think for clout, for social media fame, to get
Mhm.
recognition from these rapacious tech companies. The thing they need to do is violate another person's space in humanity, which is, you know, like on a fundamental level gross to me. And then on a music level, just like, what are we doing here? So I'll get your thoughts, and I'll read some like stuff that Chevron has said about it.
Yeah, I mean, when I read this article and stuff, there was just like one thing. I know you're gonna read up a bit on what she says, but there was one thing that really stuck out to me. She goes, "I feel more love than I ever have in my life. I feel the most unsafe I've ever felt in my life," and
Mm.
that's, you know, a tragedy in a way of stardom and whatnot, and people just not being decent, right? Not having respect for others. I want to like, you know, you could, you know, have a deep admiration for somebody's art, right? And be a fan, right? But there's boundaries to it, right? There's still people. We're all still people. So treat everybody the same, right? With the same amount of respect and whatnot. And just because you might have like a parasocial relationship with them doesn't mean you know them, and all this doesn't mean like you can act certain ways with people because you have these, you know, expectations of it or whatever. And it's just, you know, people being shitty at the end of the day. And it's sad to see that for someone who deserves the amount of success and fame that, you know, they've worked tirelessly to achieve and stuff, right? Like anytime I meet any type of artist or whatnot, it just treat them how I would anybody I meet for the first time or whatever. It's, hey, just be respectable, you know, like to talk about art, whatever things bring the conversation, but don't get weird.
Yeah,
You know,
and
that's what it is at the end of the day.
and folks have, you know, emotional reactions, and
Yeah.
I've I've been, you know, am I famous even moderately? No, but recognizable in certain circumstances and contexts, yes. And I've been like, you know, blessed and privileged and honored by that. And in those moments, you know, generally like people are just very respectful and, you know, treat me as I am. I think a lot of things come with that. That's in the political world. It's not necessarily as, you know, pop focused. So it's a certain type of person. Um, it's yeah, on a like lesser scale, but you know, you definitely get some creepier stuff that like
For sure.
I'm thinking about right now and definitely repressing. But yeah, like there's definitely moments where people kind of like don't realize that whatever goes on in your head, whatever you're thinking about in your head, and like whatever, like don't turn that into like direct action. But like I frankly don't care. Like that's fine. Like do you, right? It's like make sure it doesn't turn to direct action. But yeah, you're just like these are regular people, frankly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I conversely, I hate, and I think most people hate when celebrities do the "do you know who I am" thing, because I
Ah,
think in there is an
anybody.
inherent, yeah, like in there is an inherent sort of like, okay, you're famous for this thing and you happen to be good at this thing, and that, you know, fame comes with that. But I'm good at another thing and fame doesn't come with that, but I'm still good at it, right? And at the end of the day, we're
Yeah,
all
everybody
people.
has their own
So
things.
get in the back of the line behind me like everyone fucking else. Right? Like, but you know, like in this case, it's a lot more serious. It's about, you know, respect and consent and touching and boundaries and all these other different things. And yeah, people are going to be, some celebrities don't even like being approached in public or wanting to take photos and things. And like, I can get it. I've, in the rare examples, and you know, I have friends in various spaces who are like, you know, very popular. And I have other friends who like know of them in streaming, like folks like Emma Vigland or Hassan Piker, etc. Right. And they won't realize that like they will talk to me about some of these people, and they don't realize like, yo, you're talking to my friend. Like this would be very creepy if you were describing Sean like this, right? Or if you were
Yeah.
describing Annie, like, you know, any of my other like friends who have been on Audio Face, like whatever, right? Like this would be very, very weird if you like were flattered and honored and had a crush on like not even like that far, but like, you know, we're really like, you know, inspired by one of my famous friends, but you were like also talking about them in a way that's like very creepy and pervy that they like wouldn't like. And I, as my friend, don't get a little kind of uncomfortable with too. And so that's a little bit too much of like personalization with me, but like I think it's like a thing that people should realize that fame is not, and people genuinely think this, fame is not a automatic, you know, approval for people
No.
to treat
No.
you as public property. You're not public property. You are a person with a job that happens to have like part of that job comes with a high profile. Okay. But like that doesn't mean that you can go up committing crimes. Stalking to a certain level is a crime that's happening to Chappelle Rowan's family. Sexual assault is a crime that's happening to Chappelle Rowan personally, unfortunately, and I'm really like upset. That's happening to any artist, and definitely her. And yeah, people just need to chill the fuck out. I don't care if it's Drake or like Chris Brown, and artists who are like kind of asking for it in a lot of ways, where they love when people are like throwing bras on their stage, or like inviting people on stage like dance and stuff. Like there's that's still a boundary thing, right? Like you still got to understand that like you're part of a show. And yeah, I think social media has removed a lot of these, because a screen doesn't have emotional like interactions and needs like even a cat or a dog would. People don't like think of other people, especially famous people, like, oh, just like how I wouldn't want to be treated a certain way, we don't treat other people a certain way. And so Chappell Rowan, I appreciate her music. I like her pop stardom. To me, she's just like, on the one hand, like another white woman who's achieved pop stardom. So I'm like, cool. But I really appreciate how forcefully, I didn't get to read the quotes. I'm not going to because we went too long here, but like how forcefully she has like been like, I'm not accepting comments on this. I don't dare anything. Women don't. This isn't a conversation to be had. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't agree with the notion that I owe a mutual exchange of energy or time to people I don't know or don't trust or creep me out just because they're expressing admiration. Like, you're understand the dynamics here, right? Like, I think our audience is pretty good about these things, but I think that like you can't, and a lot of Chappelle Rowan's point is you can't disguise creepiness as super fan behavior. There's no amount of admiration that gets past the way you make people feel, and they're perfectly healthy ways to practice admiration. I think Sean talked about it, I talked about it. We've met plenty of famous people, and to my knowledge, and frankly, like I'm pretty sure we just haven't had creepy reactions with it. So it's just completely possible, because it's just like meeting any other person. And frankly, I've found, and maybe that's like a trait or a good thing for me, is that I tend to make friends with more prominent people because I treat all people like people. I really don't treat anyone differently. I've always said like it's a really minor thing in my political coverage, but I never use titles when I'm referring to people usually. Like, especially if I'm interviewing, if it was President Joe Biden, I'd call him Joe Biden. Right? Like, I'm not calling you Mr. Joe Biden, I'm not calling you Sir Joe Biden, you're Joe Biden, right? I'll mention that you're the president because that's your job, but like I don't use titles. I don't use honorifics, even with people like that. And I really don't care if I offend them, frankly, because to a fault, I treat all people like people. And I think that that's like the best intro to that. And on the other side, a lot of people who do have prominent positions like that about me. And we built like further connections.
You build relationships with that, because you can, they're like, oh, wow, somebody's actually treating me like a human. This is kind of nice.
Yeah, turns out being normal is good. Try doing that.
Very true.
This is a show about morals and values, and we'll continue
as we always say
with Glorilla. She released a snippet of an unreleased track that says, "Me and my bitch R-worded." R-worded, the slur term used for people who have like learning disabilities. And you know, like this, especially on like Black Twitter and Black IG, became a controversy. To which I say, fucking why? Like why? Why? Like, I'll read from the article here. The official website for the Special Olympics breaks down the usage of the term and why, in their opinion, it's considered offensive. Quote, "The R word is a form of hate speech that stands for," to quote the words, "retard, retarded, or other words ending in tard." So mental retardation or libtard is a common one. Like all of these things come back to this. Mental retardation was originally introduced as a medical term in 1961. In the decades since, it's become an insult and used all too commonly in everyday language. So science changes. This is the thing that baffles a lot of people of all walks of life, whether you barely have a high school education or whether you're Robert F. Kennedy Jr., people just don't understand that science changes over time. And this is a similar thing with gender dysphoria. And so conservatives will try to say that, oh, transgenderism, which is not a term, or gender dysphoria is a mental illness because it was diagnosed as such in the Diagnostical Statistical Manual version 4, which is how they used to categorize and understand like mental health, mental illnesses, things like that, right? We're now at the DSM-5, and frankly, we might be near the DSM-6. Basically, these volumes get updated every 5 or 10 years as we learn more. And frankly, as the stigma around these things goes down, so that doctors and people who are dealing with these things aren't afraid of seeking out doctors who can understand these things. So, for example, to buttress my point, people like RFK Jr., at the risk of getting this video demonetized, have said that vaccines are causing an increase in autism because kids are getting vaccines and have been for many decades. It's not just a thing we've observed in the 21st
For
century,
a long time.
but they have been for decades, because when we have things like polio, the Mitch McConnell diseases, as I call them, right? Like when we have
polio, right?
When we have shit, when we have shit from like the actual 1900s spreading, we can't do the we can't build computers, right? Like we can't fix cars. Like we can't do the basic stuff you need to do in a 21st century society, right? And so we now, because learning disabilities are being less stigmatized and more understood, and we're learning that it's different for everyone. Sometimes learning disabilities are temporarily. Sometimes maybe you have a learning disability in one thing, but you're an absolute savant in something else. And we just have to go learn about how to, teach a person. Yeah. Like, I, not to put you on blast, Sean, but like we have speech therapy classes where in the past, sometimes we would say like, oh, this person just can't speak English well, they're dumb, right? We for a long time have not done that. And if people are struggling with English or new languages, we'll put them in classes. I know, like, Sean, you've been in some of these classes. I've been in some of these classes where they'll help you like learn to speak English and pronounce words a little bit better so you'll have a better time. That's the difference between like giving up on someone versus figuring out a way to help them assimilate and do great things. And John fucking flies planes, and you have to be really good at English to do that. Right? So
you don't even know.
You have to be really good at speaking English and understanding it, because then radios are not clear. So
the best thing is when you have two radios go over when somebody's talking on one another, but they're talking to you and your English is so good that you understand the double English. So then it goes over and you just respond, and I'm like, yeah, I got this. I still got it, even though all I'm hearing is all you hear is Peanuts talk. The best thing is I do that too when they're talking and you just hear I just start saying that. Just make me laugh.
I was literally gonna say like the adults in Charlie Brown cartoons.
Yep, literally that's the best way I could explain it until it happens to you.
Yeah,
but
and
and it's like, so you learn more about those things, and right, it continues to develop more and more. So then you have a broader spectrum of learning disorders, and not all of them are bad or whatnot. And it's just not everybody is square peg round hole, right? Like it's some things work for some people, so these don't work for other people and whatnot. I mean, fucking Joe Biden had a stammer and whatnot too. So it's like there's ways that we're now learning more and more about these things and whatnot. And then kind of to your Kennedy point, right? It's like, hey, the reason why those rates are going up is because we're now broadening the definitions of it and stuff, and learning more and more about it. So then it's like, hey, like what we wouldn't call it then is totally different to what it is now, right? I mean, yeah, it's like that. And it's so stupid that people are like that, are very close-minded or just off their tits crazy in that regard. And yeah, very frustrating, even with somebody who has been through that and whatnot. It still struggles, but as a professional pilot, for fuck's sake. And you still have the things that I learned from each 3 to, I don't know, 10 or so. I still do to this day. That's how I got very, very good at public speaking. Because I was almost forced to do it in a way, but it made me how I am today
I've seen your
in a way.
public speaking grow just doing these podcasts like Audio Face and
Absolutely.
the old school PowerPoint episodes. Like, yeah, like you
Yeah.
like leaps and I mean, again, like not saying I was judging you on this in any way beforehand, but like I've still like noticed the like leaps and bounds growth where like you enter public speaking situations and it's like, oh, that's podcast Sean. He's just doing this very professionally.
Yeah.
And it's something that like again, like I'm not saying like you struggle with this in the past, but I'm just saying like I notice an improvement
Yeah.
with you going on. And I would hate for an educational system or for society to look at someone like you and have just like given up on your learning abilities when you were like 5,
immediately.
when you were 5 years old, just because you couldn't say words, as if any 5-year-old says words right.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, again, everybody takes their own time to develop and whatnot, right? Like, everybody's different.
Yeah, my last anecdote here is I it was great for me actually. One of my like younger, I didn't know this was a political moment. This was definitely a political moment. I was a teacher's aide in middle school around the same time I met Sean. A couple years later, actually, this was 8th grade. We met in 6th, and I was a teacher's aide for a like special education class of kids with various different types of learning disabilities, right? And every day or every other day, because I think we're on like a even odd period schedule, for like an hour or so, me and another like sort of like regular track 8th grade kid who I knew, shout out Chris Arcega, whoever you are, he like we would be like helping all these kids. And I remember, to kind of date myself here, this was around the time the Gorillaz Plastic Beach record had come out. And so it was just something that I would be humming. And there was this kid named Lewis who, had a lot of developmental learning structures. And
Jesus Christ,
he
that's
would
a throwback.
Yes. And he would see me as we're walking around, middle school or high school, once we eventually both got into high school, and he would sing to me the title track from Plastic Beach because I would hum it and we would sing it together, and like I would play it for him because he really liked it. And years later, he would see me and then like give me a high five or a hug or something, and then sing, "It's a Casio on a plastic beach." It's a Casio. And
That's
like,
cute.
listen, everyone's different. People are different. People are like really beautiful, and all those experiences are. I'll cherish that for the rest of my life. And that's something that taught me that like, you can't like put people down just because of like categories or medical definitions. Like, meeting people where they're at is like one of the more beautiful experiences that you can have in life. And that's why it's not a whole like, oh, we're offended by words, or like, oh, we're triggered by these things. All right. It's because like at a certain point, we got to really realize like what these words mean. And you're going to feel some type of way for a lot of those people who like use these words sort of like, charitably, when it's someone in your family or one of your friends who falls under the increasingly large category of autism, or, any sort of like mental illness or disorder. Right. And, there's a lot of learning people need to do that is like, autism is not a death sentence. Like, it's just something to learn about oneself to, move within life and understand that, oh, certain things may be a little more challenging, but that's not a reason to stop. That's just knowing that knowledge is power, and knowing that that challenge might exist, and knowing that I might have ways to like work around and improve it is beautiful. It's why people, again, like a lot of personal things, like your sister learned sign language because like it's a powerful thing. It's not like people who can't hear are dumb. It's not like they can't express ideas. If you give them a way to express ideas, it's profound and it's beautiful, and you can get people to contribute to society, and who can speak to experiences that folks who have a lot of these abilities and take them for granted don't. So that's what, for a lot of reasons, I feel some type of way when people use the R word. And like, I felt some type of way ever since middle school. And like with me being a vegetarian, I'm not going to like jump into it that much, but I'm not going to associate with people who are like not figuring that out. And if they ask, I'm going to tell it to their face. And if they're online, I'm going to get a little bit active about it. So the thing I hate about the whole Glorilla thing is that, you know, I think Beyonce or Lizzo had a spaz moment earlier this year and they fixed their song. It's fine. I think Glorilla has a chance to fix it. It's fine. If she doesn't, I don't really care. She doesn't really matter that much to me anyways. But there's so many people who are just like, relax, chill. It's just a word, whatever. And it just kind of shows this like American individualism and kind of like rampant disrespect that we have in the society that, again, not to be all, this is the morals podcast because we spent an hour talking about morals and we're going to spend the rest talking about music. But yeah, like it was disappointing from Glorilla, who I think is very talented lyrically, at least in the female musician, like pussy rap sort of world, I guess, so to speak. And I think she can do better. I didn't I stole that term from a black woman who's a YouTuber. I forget their name, but
that's a great term. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like we are deeply Annie, previous contributor to the show, had mentioned that term, and yeah, it was let me see. It's intellectual media. I actually do subscribe to her. I just haven't seen that video. It's really good. But she does video essays on YouTube, intellectual media with an X in the middle. You'll find it. She did a video called A Black Woman's History of Explicit Lyrics. And that's where she kind of coins the term pussy rap. And I think, you know, Ben Shapiro, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, all that stuff applies, right? So Glorilla's good at that. That's kind of like the lane for popular women rappers at this time. Yeah, sure. She can do better. She can absolutely do better. You can make great rap lyrics without touching into these like topics, and other artists have of all walks of life. And so there's no reason in the year of our Lord 2024 that you can't, Glorilla. So do better. And you know what? It's 2024 audio face. All the people in Glorilla's audience who were defending this use of the word, kill yourselves.
Wow, we're bringing it back.
We are bringing it back, baby. Full ass circle. Kill yourselves. I have no patience for you. Stop spending my tax money. Stop spending my tax money. Stop spending my oxygen. We're good. Yeah, you know, we're hitting all the audio face hits today, right?
We really are.
All right,
Hi,
Carl. So let's move in.
Please don't be an expensive summer again.
Please do. I mean, Ack has got way more bigger issues.
Oh, no. I'm not. I'm not.
Actually, need to pay off Ozempic before he pays a lawyer for an anti-slap for us. What? No. Who said that? That's offensive. Well,
who said that?
We can't be.
Who the fuck said that?
We can't be fatphobic on this podcast.
I'll PT your ass. It's still kingdom come. Who said that?
What you twinkle toed cocksuckers just signed your own death warrant.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I like you. I respect you. Hell, I might even let you come over
my house and fuck my sister.
I love Full Metal Jacket.
Immediate groin grab. Like the straightest grab of testicle that has ever been done in 20th century film.
Absolutely.
It's like that was 80% spite, 20% erotic.
Love it. Toe the line, baby.
Anyways, Doing It For Me by Larry June. Doing It For Me by Larry June. 15 songs, 38 minutes long. Larry June, one of the Bay Area's finest, San Francisco Bay Area, of course. I think we did Spaceships on the Blade in 2022. Yeah, because I like Don't Check Me for sure. 2023 was a year and a half. And so I don't think we hit that Larry June Alchemist Great Escape things. It was one of those things that was like on the bubble we never hit. But usually an Alchemist sort of like collaboration hits really nicely. So that one did as well when I listened to it afterwards. Larry June, folks who don't know, born in the Bay Area, kind of spent his childhood split in between Atlanta and the South and San Francisco. And so a lot of his music has sort of like this, well, his vocals have sort of this Channel Tris, like rap, sort of like smooth, silky kind of delivery. And then the rap is production wise, very influenced by the Bay Area, very influenced by West Coast California rap in general. It's it's a little bit of a modern, especially this record, a modern hyphy take on the old jazz standard production. Maybe less jazz, but a lot of soul. Not even funk here, but more on that later for funk. But a lot of soul, a lot of jazz, and a nice smooth West Coast sort of plug for it. This is an album that folks have been asking us to review. I think Mike Boy for Mayor was like, "This is why I came." Yes. And so sorry for taking a little bit of time to review this. This was, to be fair, this was the 9th of August, and we do from time to time at the end of the month look at what albums we missed from the whole of the month, and we'll dig into that. So this is well within our audio face themes. But yeah, the specs are nice for an album from 2024. This is an artist who we know delivers pretty well. I'm curious to hear what you think.
I mean, I enjoyed it. It's definitely like a slower burn type of record and stuff, which I mean, I can appreciate with that. But so I really like, so overall, let's say it's like a really good blend of, as Dan was saying, old jazz standard with kind of some newer sounds, but done in a very nonchalant type of way, right? I mean, opening tracks of like Magnum PI, Morning Calculations, when I think of that, where you hear that and it's just kind of really nonchalant in the way that it's presented, but in a way that's approachable and is done that's not in a disrespectful manner, if that kind of makes sense. But with that, like throughout the entire record, it's kind of a slower pace that builds as time goes on, but it kind of picks a mood and whatnot, a lackadaisical mood, and sticks with that throughout most of the record. And oh, there's Dan. And especially in this day and age, 2024, where we really harp on rap and stuff a lot, where we're wanting something a little different and whatnot, it's kind of nice to hear someone do old jazz standard and someone who's been around for a long time, but try to up it and change it enough to where it's different, but not enough to where it's like completely different in the regard where you're trying to pay homage to what you grew up with, who you came from, and all these things and whatnot. And it's like a perfect blend of that. Almost like with, I'm thinking like, so like backpack rappers doing it like some Earl records and whatnot, where they can go back, throw back some older beats and whatnot, but do it in a modern way that sounds fresh, it sounds new, and it keeps you engaged. And with this record, it's like a perfect record to just cruise and chill on. If your weekend lazy, got nothing else to do, well, at least for me, I'm sipping espresso outside and just chilling. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect record for that.
Whipping tail, dipping jail, and sipping ale.
Yes, sir. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Especially like compared to some of the other projects and whatnot that we've got. I mean, you had the Night Shift a year ago, and some of the things that I've heard from Larry June, I was like, oh, this is kind of nice little change of pace in that regard. And it's a record that I enjoy quite a bit. I don't know if it'll be everybody's cup of tea, because some people might not like the slower pace on us. Some people want like a higher tempo, and that's all personal preference at the end of the day for it. But as like a review standard, I liked it a lot. Especially, again, kind of going back to what I said, in this decade and this year, I'm like, it sounds fresh. But I'm glad but the biggest thing I'm glad about, it's not Uncle Rappy. At first, I was worried. I was like, holy shit, it's about to be Uncle Rappy, and it wasn't. And I think that speaks volumes of the production of it. It toes the line. Again, that's kind of why I made the comparison of Earl and whatnot and a couple others, that they toe the line of like what is acceptable of paying homage and tribute to older sounds that you like, but just pushing it that little bit more where it sounds slightly different in a modern context and you can still bop to it in 2024. Like, love it.
God, I'm gonna cry and call you, and we're gonna have like a moment when Gus gets into backpack rap.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Like it's gonna be like that meme from Malcolm in the Middle, where it's like, son, once you go down this path, there's no going back. But yeah,
it's like randomly when Gus starts listening to experimental Atoms for Peace demos, and we're just like,
yeah,
they grow up so
London.
fast.
London is musically going down a very, like, I think in a young, I'm not even gonna say it as I'm not even gonna say this is a thing about her generation, because I think this is applicable for kids too, right? When they're just developing their music styles, whether there's a TikTok or not, I think there's a tendency for a lot of people to go backwards because of music that their parents showed them that they do
Absolutely.
enjoy. There's a little bit of an inclination to go forwards a little bit. And like really interesting music that we probably wouldn't even find surface on a podcast like Audio Phase, right? And there's like some stuff in the middle. I feel like that was me when I was younger, because like when I was around the age of 10 or 13 or whatever, like I had The Doors and Daft Punk and Gorillaz, like all of them, my discography. Like we were definitely building range there, like some Red Hot Chili Peppers, some Outkast. Like we were building a big range there. But yeah, when it comes to what you were saying about making this project timeless, I kind of want to like apply that to Larry June as an artist, because I was coming into this record also thinking it could be Uncle Rappy, but also thinking that, I've heard a lot of Larry June. He has this certain like Bay Area style. I'm an adoptive son of the Bay Area, let's say. And so we've seen a lot of Too Shorts come and go who have like one or two like good songs. And then like we play them shits, the wheels fall off and then some, but like really, we don't really see someone who like continues the sound from that. Exactly. Right. Go to any show, especially a rap show in the Bay Area, and the DJ will be playing that before the opening act comes up. Just like,
always. They're gonna play Bull Whistle. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's lazy. Like at the DNC, they play California Love and like Not Like Us. And it's like, it's one of those like stereotype kind of songs right now. It's like you gotta do it because you're in that area. But Larry June doesn't fall into that trap, thankfully, right? Like, I think he's still a little bit more of a if you know, especially in the Bay Area kind of person. He hasn't seen that sort of like mainstream success where he gets like the quote unquote Drake stimulus package, or even like one of those like bigger sort of like features, right? But he seems, especially like with that Alchemist record, where he did get folks like Big Sean and Action Bronson and Wiz Khalifa and Joey Bass.
That was pretty cool
like,
one.
That's like that's some folks' old head Mount Rushmore, right? Like Alchemist, Wiz Khalifa, Action Bronson, Boldy James, Ty Dolla, like that is that those are big names for a certain group of people, right? That said, I think that I ask for a lot from rap from this year, and kind of in general. This is the Rap is Dead kind of saga of Audio Face, let's say. But you listen to songs like Stinson Beach, the really like bassy, jazzy boppers. Like a Mac, I think kind of like the last three go on a really good one here too. You get, especially in tracks like Imported Couches, you get Larry June's wit and like that sort of like California Bay Area, but also very Atlanta influence, like kind of like wit and humor within the lyrics while still keeping that sort of like hard delivery. That's there. It's in spades. It's great. Like you said, that production really kind of like drives the project through. And what you get is something that, yeah, it came out in August 2024, but I think it's going to have more staying and listening power as the years go by, even more than it does right now. I think this is a record that's like going to be appreciated and should be appreciated right now. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's going to be appreciated even more as time goes on. And we're like, wait, this record was released in 2024, but it sounds like it could have been released before that or after that. And that's something that you just don't. We want it so much in rap. And, I didn't necessarily, at least in my preference, want it to sound like this, but it sounds good. And there's enough in there to like keep you listening, keep you interested. But to create something that's timeless, that's not stale, that I can't immediately compare Larry June to like 5 or 6 other rappers who also have Larry or June or Baby in their names. Like I'm really, this isn't the hero I wanted, but this is the hero I deserved. when it came to listening to this record. And maybe Hero's like too strong of it, but like this is a rap artist who is continually challenging himself and challenging his listeners and staying true to his own sound and his own roots, while also making music that fits within his genre but pushes that genre forward in a way that like no one said like, Larry June, you have now been bestowed as one of the people like JPEG Mafia. Like talk about the weirdest Avengers ever of like who is saving rap music right now. You've got you know, like all the female rappers like Little Sims and No Name. You got Jev, you got JPEG Mafia, you got Larry June. Like, what the hell kind of Avengers is this? But you know what? Like, that's where rap is good right now. And it's coming from young folks, it's coming from old folks. The thing that combines them all, other than just being rap, is a desire to not sound like the trap mainstream. And it's going to take a while for the trap mainstream to realize it's not the cool thing, for them to go like, okay, now we have to fake like we're Larry June. We have to fake like we're JPEG Mafia now. We have to fake that sound. And, you know, we're going to call it out, but ultimately that's going to elevate the genre. And so this is something that is a classic audio face record to me. It's pushing the genre forward, and I likes that. And I won't sit. Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scale. Yes. We do arbitrary scales every week on this podcast because our review is our review. Rather than give you a letter ranking system or a number ranking system, we'll tell you exactly how we feel about that album with a ranking system that we change every single week. This week, it's going to be possible new names for the Utah Hockey Club. So, as fans of your Las Vegas Golden Knights will know, expansion teams are a little bit OP in the NHL. And the
well, first off, it's not an expansion team.
Who are they stealing from then?
Arizona Coyotes. Arizona moved because they never got a fucking stadium.
Arizona never existed. They're Utah's okay. Technically, I know, like technically you're right, but to me, Utah's expansion team because Arizona never existed in hockey to me.
Dude, because the fact that they were playing out of ASU's fucking stadium still is my favorite thing in the world.
Like they teach journalism students that. First of all, ASU is probably the hardest working state college in America, frankly, and this is coming from someone who is a proud product of the University of California system. But ASU is working real hard. All right, so I got no shade for that, but I do have shade for that like overall idea of having a hockey team there. Like that's a football place. Like Vegas is already a stretch. Like even I as a Golden Knights fan, I'm like, wow, I guess we pulled off a hockey team in Vegas. Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, well, I mean, the thing that got them there was just that was the very first professional sports team in Vegas. So it just and they got the final the first year. So y'all got just insane publicity and fans from that.
I'm seeing this sitting in a room where I hung a Kevin Durant Team USA poster from several Olympics back when he was just starting on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which was the NBA expansion team. Absolutely. But you know, like I do love a good expansion team miracle story. Anyways, that's the Utah hockey club
because now they don't have a goddamn name, so they're making it to it yet. And they're literally leaving it to a fan vote. So that's this arbitrary scale. I love it. I freaking love the NHL, man. I'm horny for some hockey, dog. I need some hockey.
Hockey night in Canada.
Cannot wait. This is absolutely 1000% the Utah Mammoth. I can get on board with the Utah Mammoth. It works. Like you could have some pretty sick logos, I think, that you could do. Hello, Nico. You could definitely have some like pretty nice crests and jerseys if you do with the Mammoth. It's good. Just don't use the Yeti. I will fucking fight you.
I kind of like the Yeti. I don't know. Like for this one, I what do you not like about the Yeti? That's my question.
So, as a Colorado Avalanche fan, we had our mascot was the Yeti until some fan interaction banned the Yeti from
did someone Chapel Row on the Yeti? Did someone grope them inappropriately?
The Yeti. Literally, we used to have the Bigfoot.
I hate this podcast so much.
Literally, they did. That happened. We used to have the Bigfoot on their shoulders, and I have a jersey with the Bigfoot on the shoulders because that's what I grew up with. And now we've been relegated to just the Colorado Sea on our shoulders. And if And if this motherfucking team becomes the Utah Yeti because we got Chappelle Roaned in like early aughts, thanks asshole. Then
I hate it
I'll be
here.
very mad because now we have Bernie the dog. No, no disrespect on Bernie the dog, but Yeti went hard.
I hate it here.
Oh,
That's terrible.
dude, that's like 17 layers audio face deep, and I love it. That's why I love this stupid podcast. It's so ridiculous.
Blimp accidents and hockey mascots. That's really, it's more than a music podcast. It's that. It's politics, blimp accidents, and the National Hockey League. Which
Love it.
really, it's the International Hockey League. It's literally 2 countries that we're doing this mug with. It should be the IHL, but
Oh,
America's the
IHL baby. I mean, hey, next Olympics we actually get NHLers in, and I'm like, I am libbed up for that, man. Like I
I'm
am
wet.
I
I'm
am
wet.
like, you don't even know.
Hey, tickets for the 2024 Olympics. We don't need
Is it
lodging.
2026, 2028, yeah.
2028, yeah. We don't need lodging.
No lodging required.
Yeah, this
No
gonna have
gun
to carry.
required.
Well, anyways.
Well,
So hopefully, Mike Boy from Mayor, you felt the same. You said, I still like booming with 2 Chainz, and that you went to the album release show at the Roxy last week.
oh, that
That's
kind
gotta be sick,
that was
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, I would have
gotta
gone
go
to that.
hard.
Like
Yeah,
someone who's
that
like
would've been dope.
really
Roxy
truly
goes hard.
Bay Area. Yeah, someone who's truly like Bay Area or California. I would go to that one, show it to them, and not do anything creepy or weird. That's what
Jesus Christ.
music is like now. If you're not already, subscribe, like on YouTube, and do all those things. Anyways, next album review, we have Romance by Fontaines DC. 11 songs, 37 minutes long. Skinty Fia was a core Dan moment for me. Fontaines DC, they're an Irish alternative rock band. They've been around for a minute. I'm trying to think of like when they're first. Let me look really fast. I think their first album came out in 2019.
I think 18, 19 around there. It's like the end of the very end of the 2010s. So
I started hearing about them a little bit from My Hero's Death. I was like hearing on some playlists. I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's nice. And then Skinty Fia dropped out in 2022 and kind of rocked my world.
That's
That's
a banger. That's an album.
Skinty Fia brought out my inner white kid. Like, I swear to God, like my inner British white kid. Because Skinty Fia, there's this thing in America called indie sleaze, and Skinty Fia, especially the title track of that album, brought back
right?
like a lot of that's. I mean, they're Irish, and so the title track, a lot of it is like, yeah, Gaelic. I'm not sure if Skinty Fia is in Gaelic, but it's definitely not English. So sure, it just sounds nice. But that track and that album in general reminded me of, British indie sleaze. Like, if you're thinking of LCD Sound System, you're in the ballpark, but like British indie sleaze has always had like an electronic music bent to it. Indie sleaze in America is meant to describe like an alternative music era of like a different type of LCD Sound System. The Daft Punk is playing at my house LCD Sound System, and less like the other more electronic things they did. Check out our LCD Sound System bonus episode. I think I might just listen to that for fun on my Amtrak ride.
I love them so much.
On my Amtrak ride. Yeah, please don't. You were good at American Dream or whatever. Like
that's true. American Dream is a good send off. Like,
yeah,
Black Screen as an ending 14-minute track that makes me want to just cry into oblivion. Goes hard.
There are very few artists from the aughts and the tens that I really love that need to be making more music. And yet Tom York still delivers.
I'm waiting for Tom York to make a bad record. They might end up dropping LP3 for the Smile, and who knows. 2024.
Again, the LeBron James meme. I'm just so happy. I can't believe this is my life.
I can't believe this is my life. That's us this year. Especially we're getting teased by the horrors, and then the horrors drop. That's just
The
be like, dude,
horror-
I don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to record
horrors.
next year.
I don't
Like this,
want to
like,
listen.
like I don't
I don't
want
want
to
to
listen
listen to
anymore.
music anymore.
I retire. I don't want to listen to music
I'm
anymore. I
done.
remember I was telling one of my students, "Oh yeah, I'm a music podcast." Blah blah. Like, how much music do you listen to? I'm like, a lot.
Way too much.
Like, and now, like after this year, if everything goes, I'll be like, I'm good. I had enough.
Yeah, no, it's like I've figured it out. I've won music.
I've won music. The day that we won music instead of the day that music died.
Sean and I did a 100% speed run of music. No, anyways, Skinty Fia was amazing. I was listening to that honestly before I went into my first and second and third listen of Romance, because I think a lot of my favorite songs come from my like earlier in learning music era that I was talking about earlier with like referencing my niece and nephew. Like, you're most open to new music when you're super young as a kid and you're just like taking all these things in before your preferences have like really settled. But a lot of times you're just like taking in whatever's in your environment. So there's that. But no, Skinty Fia is one of my like, as I've matured as a music listener and learned a bunch of different genres, that tapped into something that was like, this is what the old music me liked, but this is something that the mature music me can really enjoy and really bop to. Like, I play Skinty Fia the same way some people play trap music on their way to work to hype themselves up. Like, I really like that album. I like that song. But apparently we're not reviewing that. We're reviewing their 2024 album Romance. And God damn it, I didn't believe it, but they made it better than the album in 2020, than the Skinty Fia record in 2022.
This is I'm glad I'm being proven wrong in a way with like state of music industry earlier this year, where I'm like ripping alternative and indie and whatnot because it's my favorite genre. And last week I got some bangers, and this week, Jesus fucking Christ,
Listen,
I got some
if
bangers.
you know where to find it.
If you know where to find it, there's some good shit. There's some really good shit. 2024 right now, it's just like good shit. There's a lot. Like
if you have a problem with the music you're listening to, talk to your dealer because he's giving you the wrong shit. The good shit is out there. Your dealer's not working hard enough. Come to Audio Face. We got the supply.
We got the good shit. It's a fantastic record. Just top to bottom. Like, to me, like the
Oh shit, Joe Rogan.
just the two opening tracks. Title track, Romance. It's beautiful build, 2.5 minutes long, which like
First track too.
yeah, it's like this kind of slow burn that builds up and is like this beautiful electronic ballad towards the end of it. It's like, oh, that really sucks you into the record. And then you have Starburster, the second track, which is like this almost Beck sounding like track with it, but in a modern way. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is what I mean by wanting different sounds, right? Like, example, right? Like with Skinty Fia, right? I had a record that was in Gaelic and English and had different sounds and stuff. And with Romance, it's like you get a completely different thing in that regard. And it's like, whoa, these are guys trying to push themselves in that way and are doing something different and are just killing it in that regard. And I love it.
Sean, you know what this face means?
Hmm.
I have the perfect bit of music analysis to bring this full circle.
Go ahead.
Do you want to know how this album came to be?
Go on.
Fontaines DC was inspired by the song creation process that they had together as a band while on tour with your Arctic Monkeys.
That would make sense.
Folks, pressure creates diamonds. And when you are surrounded by your contemporaries and they are hitting
Musical
at their
genius.
best, the shit flows down. Some of it rubs off on you. You learn,
Trickle down music economics by Alex Turner.
Economics, right? So
That's
yeah.
interesting. Actually, that's
the story
very
of this
interesting.
was, Fontaines DC was touring with Arctic Monkeys for their
For the car?
for the car. Yes, they were opening with them for a lot of their moments, and they were
Yeah,
really,
that must have been a brilliant fucking Fontaines DC and Arctic Monkeys. Man, I would have shit myself.
Skinty Fia, Fontaines DC, and the car and Tranquility Base
Tranquility
Arctic
Base.
Monkeys. Audio Face would have been over a long time ago.
Oh man, that show, if we went to that at the forum or something, we would have like the next recording would have been here. Be like,
Well, that's it. It's not gonna get any
I
better.
can't get any better than that. So audio face over. Bye.
We'll do a bonus episode when Kendrick drops. Other than that piece, no, yeah, like it. So that process, not just touring, but we've seen a lot of artists where touring and going around to different parts of the country and different parts of countries rather, and working with bands they're headlining for or not, whatever, has been a really enlightening moment and a moment that really helps to push forward their music. And yeah, you get like what I'm really enjoying from alternative and indie right now, which is also where I'm able to bridge the gap with folks like my niece, who's into that like 2000s sound. And I'm like, okay, that 2000s sound was awesome, and I want you to build a foundation in that so you can like understand what good music is and be able to tell this for yourself. But this was released in 2024, and it's better. It's better than that stuff. I'm saying it right now. It's better. Yeah, Starburster is just an incredible kind of song, and I felt filler in the other two of the albums we reviewed this week. All right. Not a second of filler here. There's really good song track ideas here. It's really refined well. And yeah, that process that Fontaines DC was saying that, like, yeah, while they were touring, they had a bunch of these really good ideas while they were on tour. And, inspired by the kind of approach to alternative rock that the Arctic Monkeys, Sheffield's finest, have been doing for the past couple of albums. They decided to take this elevated art alternative rock approach to it. And listen, you're always chasing your first high. Like, listening to Skinty Fia is still like one of my favorite things. And I've had 2+ years to listen to that. Romance has only been out for a week. So I'm gonna have to let it cook. I still really love Skinty Fia, but they're very different records.
Very, very different records.
But you have like so good. It's so
they're
good.
They're both just incredible, right? With like how they both pay homage to the genres that they're really pulling from, right? Like Skinty Fia, that post-punk, post-rock type of record and whatnot, paying homage to their origins in Ireland, in Dublin, free the Irish on God, forever and ever.
Free Palestine, free Ireland.
Yeah, it was a name as a man with an Irish name, because this is the only way you should ever spell Sean. God damn it.
Struggles are entwined. I'm not kidding. I'm not.
No, they really are.
To save time, I'm not going to go into the political angle of that. But you should also. I'll do it for 10 seconds. Just take a look at the number of Irish people not from Northern Ireland, from Ireland, who are outspoken and vociferous advocates for Palestinian sovereignty and Palestinian liberation,
because they probably lived through it in the goddamn 70s and 80s.
Oh wow, why are these white people up here? Oh, these white people were also oppressed by England and had their land effed around with by England, huh?
Their language taken away, their land taken away, everything. Like
international solidarity. One person's terror attack is another person's freedom struggle. Like, hashtag no politics. Hashtag no politics. Okay, but Fontaines DC.
The thing with the like, so you have like that post-punk style record, right? Homage to their roots and whatnot, and then with Romance, it's like a early aughts style indie record, indie alt rock record, but in such a modern way that I'm like, this is what I. When again, I mean, almost going to our early review of Larry June, this is the way to make a sound that you want to pay homage to and have an idea of, right? Especially if you're working with Arctic Monkeys, who are the pinnacle of alt rock sound in the mid 2010s, early 2010s, right? Like they are the pinnacle of it with AM, Star Spangled Charlotte, a bunch of shit, right? You get creative ideas from them on tour, which is an amazing story. I love that. And now you take that, get an ideas, and make it your own with different sounds, different different things that you've had in your own upbringing and your own previous records, and you make this glorious record that sounds so fresh and new, and it's beautiful. And this is what alternative needs. This is what indie needs, are records like this. And I love it. This is why we love, and we talk about the horror so much, because that's something that they did 7 years ago, right? With Five. They made alternative into a sounds like, man, this sounds like nothing I've ever heard. And Romance is close to that.
That Horrors record could be released in 2024 and it could be album of the year. It was
and it will literally,
it's
that forward thinking. Like, it's no one's really come close, but Romance starts to dabble in that territory of like those, again, just the opening 2 tracks. Just listen to those back and forth, and you're like, God damn, like they're really onto something with that. And I love it when you have a record that just draws you in and makes you want to get to it. And that's what Romance is. It's just beautiful. No filler. 11 songs, 37 minutes long of just pure alt bliss in the year of our Lord 2024. This year is ridiculous. It's so good.
Yeah, I got
Such a
headed
good
up to.
record.
In addition to Starbuster, there's a song near the latter part of the record called Sundowner.
Sundowner goes hard.
That's just like also amazing, also like lyrically, sonically, just like well done. And yeah, as you get to the ending part of the track, or ending part of the record, Hoarseness is the Wetness, which sounds like a song you named. Death Kink, which sounds like a song I named, and Favorite. All these are just like really. I think I still need to sit in 3 listens in. I feel like this is a really good concept record too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Romance, love, you have a lot of elements of it and a lot of approaches to it with Starburster or Sundowner or Here's the Thing or Death Kink. You have a lot of different approaches for like this theme of romance, and I'm gonna have to dig into it more. If anything, I apologize to this record for not being able to approach it with like the 5 listens it might deserve to really understand
it. Really deserves a lot, like to dissect it. It's one of those, it's like, 2018 you had, MGMT's Little Dark Age, you had Tranquility Base Hotel Casino, you had Brief Inquiry by 1975, and those records took a long time to dissect. It took like the whole year to dissect it. Romance is one of those albums where, like, when we get to the award show later on, it's like, hey, we finally dissected the record. It took us a couple months, but it deserves that. It absolutely deserves it.
Yeah. God, what a great this Fontaines DC, man. They're quickly becoming one of my favorites, like one of my modern favorites, which I love to say, because like, Sean, you intimately know my personality. The fact that I've been saying Gorillaz is one of my favorite bands for the long time I've had, like, none of my opinions last that long, really. Like, my political opinions have changed and shifted over several decades, but like, being able to start to say like, no, I'm starting to beat out like the old standards, like Muse or whatever, for my favorite bands with some of these newer ones, like Fontaines DC. Feels good, man. I feel these are one of those rare moments where like, okay, I feel a little bit less old. I'm like plugged into some like newer good shit. I'm actually genuinely enjoying it.
I'm excited for the rest of the year. We have the Voids later. We have possibly the Smile Part 3. I mean, you have these beautiful alt records that I'm just like, I can't.
I think Tom York is lawyering us into Audio Face 2025 because I think that Smile record's going to come out next year. But we're seeing a lot of stuff.
We're seeing a lot. They're teasing us a lot right now, and I'm like, I'm like, God damn it, don't make it in 2025. Just make it 2024 now. Please.
we will filibuster Audio Face, and we will do court packing until like December 30th. If the Smile and the Horrors are able to clock in by 2024. Usually we end our Audio Face reviewing season by early December, but if we can get cooking, if we can get really cooking like that, we got range. What's Obama doing with the Trump crowd sizes? This thing? Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales. Like we can Audio Face because our review is our review. Rather than give you a letter ranking system or number ranking system, we will tell you as music fans how much we enjoy the damn thing. And if that isn't enough for you, we'll create an arbitrary scale every single week to let you know how we feel. This week it is replacement names for your Utah Hockey Club.
Dude, saying your Utah Hockey Club This is gonna be one of my favorite NHL seasons just for that. And they're ugly I kind of want to buy a jersey low key.
No, dude. Those jerseys are gonna be so rare.
That's gonna be so rare. Like 20 years from now, I'm just rolling up with the Fanatics. By the way, it's Fanatics now. That's an entirely different conversation and an arbitrary scale that we got.
I can't wait till DraftKings buys Fanatics so we can just embrace where we're at in sports.
Oh, please.
Like sports is just alcoholism with like a little more capitalism than even alcoholism has added to it.
And slavery, if you really get down to it too.
Not that you use TikTok, but let's go gambling. That's a sound on TikTok. That's very fancy. That's very viral. Let's go gambling.
Fucking funny. Wow. Yeah. Now accepting ticket deposit to your Utah Blizzard.
Yeah, please. I would love if they were able to make the Intuit Dome where the Inglewood Clipper. I feel so good. Can I just? I'm sorry, but I just said that out loud for the first time. Inglewood Clippers. Inglewood Clippers.
That would go hard.
And they don't play at the crypto. They play
Intuit Dome, baby.
Never mind that I do not like any bank, let alone Intuit. I'm not gonna get myself in trouble, but like, yeah, I don't like Intuit. But that's a really nice stadium. And if you're gonna be a billionaire, I like the way Steve Ballmer's gonna be a billionaire, which is like, I'm gonna let normal people have nice things. I'm gonna have some like half of Intuit Dome is just a park for people in Inglewood to play basketball in whenever they want to. And then the other half's like a concert venue / arena with like really good seats, even for the nosebleeds. And it's just like, okay, God bless. Anyways, this is not the arena review arbitrary scale, although that might be a good one.
That would be a great one.
Arenas. Yeah, I'm going to add that actually to our list. But this is going to be my the Utah. This is going to be my Utah Mammoth.
That's gonna be your Mammoth. That's a good one. This is my Blizzard. This is my Blizzard, just because I want to. The reason why I don't want that name, I want that name for this album because it deserves so much praise that I want to hate watch it. Because if the Utah Blizzard are a thing, that's like a rival to the Colorado Avalanche. So I would have to hate them. Get mollywopped every night, and I would be like, it'd be like me with sickos.
Hockey is one of my favorite sports of all time because you and I would be united this year because me in Las Vegas and you in Colorado would be looking at Utah like, hey man,
yeah, hey man,
kid on the block, hey man,
paying taxes, boy.
Yeah, no. We're going to haze him. We're going to haze him this year for sure. This is such a dumb sport. I love it.
I fucking love it. I'm horny for some hockey.
We just keep things horny for some hockey. Hockey Face, sponsored by DraftKings.
Can't wait. Oh, please. When the Horrors drops this year and we retire Audio Face, then we make it Hockey Face. That's what happens. That's the pivot. Sponsored by DraftKings.
Yeah, we should have done sports this entire time. We definitely wouldn't. I mean, the political opinions would be much worse, but you know, there's always that.
They would be the only left-leaning sports fucking review ever.
There'd be like ESPN, Southpaw. There'd be ESPN, Southpaw, and us, and Defector, and that'd be it. Yeah. Anyways, last album review, we have Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay, 53 minutes long, 15 songs long. Magdalena Bay, I hadn't heard of. They seem to be like, or at least appearing to be like a man-woman duo.
Yeah, it's a pop duo. I think their first project was 2020, maybe 2019. I don't know if I think I brought them up in a music recommendations, I believe, or something. I talked about them before, but
it's possible because I have very little memory. I don't think.
Yeah, and the only thing I remember from them was they had like these 2 mini mixes that I listened to a little bit here or there, but they had like one release a couple years ago. are that I don't think we ended up reviewing for whatever reason. So this
Mercurial
is their
World, maybe.
yeah, which I don't remember listening to. I definitely remember listening to the mini mixes because there's volume 1 and 2. But this is the first like real proper LP listen that I get to do too, which is interesting. But I mean, we can't cover everything.
Yeah. How do I describe this record? I think I liked it more listening to it, which like sounds weird because like that's how you review everything. It's like you listen to music, you don't watch it. But there was just something very off-putting. I like, what was the offensive term I came up with earlier? I forget. But like there's something I found very off-putting by like the aesthetics of the record and by some of the things that like Magdalena Bay does. It's sort of this like I don't know. I just don't want the aesthetic of the 2020s to be this sort of Elon Musk influenced Joe Rogan. We live in a simulation. All this stuff is like AI generated. It's this like direct connection between technology and the human interface and how they combine. Like, to me, this record feels already dated by the aesthetic that not only it takes, but that the artists within it take. So like that was just something that's like I immediately off-putting for me. That said, I'll also say this. Maybe I'll just like get all the trash out of the way first. I think this album has more filler than it needs. 53, almost 54 minutes long in 2024 is a tall ask. And I do not think, after listening to this record twice and 2.5 times, that every minute of this album is used very well. There's definitely some EP or mixtape stuff that snuck its way onto here. But when it's at its best, it reminds me of that really synth heavy, technological, how far can we push the boundaries between traditional instrument led alternative music and this technologically led future. You know, the stuff that like M83 and MGMT were doing
Yep,
at their
that's what I was
best
gonna
in the
say.
2010s. Like, you get some of this when this album is at its best. I'd say in the middle there's like 3 tracks. There's Image, Death, and Romance, and then Fear, Sex, right? I especially the latter two, Death and Romance, and then Fear, Sex, they blend into each other really well. They seem like a part 1, part 2 kind of song. In a way that Chook's done in the past with some of their albums, where like a lot of the songs just flow into each other. It's not even like an electronic record. It's just like
Just how it's
these
made.
songs are big and they have 2 motifs different enough to separate, but together enough to like keep back to back on the record. And I like that. There's artistry, there's thought, there's thinking into it. And frankly, the sort of embrace of this is what I called it. I call it white escapism, because this seems to be like it's motivated by this Elon Musk idea of, oh, we can't do anything on Earth. It's just gone. We just got to give up and go to Mars, a place that's completely unlivable for humans. But if we devote technical time and attention to this version of the world, then things will be better. Or, you know, if we think about the Mark Zuckerberg, if we change our company name from Facebook to Meta, and we think about the metaverse, and everyone's living in a virtual reality world, they will pick that versus the actual hellscape that they're living in, right? Like, there's a certain like there's Afrofuturism. There's always been things like Afrofuturism and these things that are influenced by non-white cultures around the world and their takes on what the future looks like. And, you know, like, that's fine. You know, I love me some Jetsons and Meet the Robinsons and shit. It's like, I got nothing wrong against like white people and the future, right? But I think this aesthetic that's been, you know, like a Rick and Morty, everything's a simulation, nothing matters kind of like esque thing, feels a little bit played out. Like, it feels a little bit old. And thankfully, that is something that is mostly in the album covers, the aesthetic, like the visual of it. And that's not really reconciled in the music or in the sound. The music and the sound is a lot more like, I feel like there's a lot more depth there and a lot more thought there. This doesn't feel like a Grimes pontificating on the future and how she thinks that, oh, we're all going to be downloaded into a cloud drive program and our consciousness is, no, it's not that bullshit, right? it's just regular music. And when it's at its best, it's really good music. I think especially in the middle, it's a more middle heavy record than like a top or a bottom heavy record. Because I think the top and the bottom leave some stuff to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, when you talked about like artists and sounds that it made you think of, like that was M83, who's one of my favorite artists ever. I thought like the track Image, that fourth one, really thought me even of their their album last year. Um, that I actually thoroughly enjoyed. But anyways, with fantasy and kind of the sounds of that, like I was thinking of the song Amnesia really with M83, and it reminded me a lot of that in a way where I'm like, oh, that almost sounds like a little too similar in the way that it is. But um I was like, okay, it's interesting to have kind of that sound, but then make it into a super futuristic album in that regard. Um, but I agree with most, like pretty much on most of your motifs, where I think it was a bit long. There's a couple scenes of filler that I thought didn't necessarily need to be there. I think there's some stuff that kind of sounded a little pretentious in that regard. I don't think it was trying to come off
Yeah.
as that way, but it just did. And that's, I think, what happens when you have this as as a conceptual record and whatnot. Those are kind of the misses that you can have and are very, very easy to make, if non-intentional, can still happen. But overall, I enjoyed most of this record. I like that middle. I like Image, even though I think it's kind of an M83 clone. Death and Romance, Fear Sex. I even like Vampire in the Corner, even though I think it could be a little pretentious sounding. I just really like kind of the end where it builds and builds. Again, it reminds me a lot of M83, and like they had a couple tracks with their keyboardist and bass player, Killa, and how her vocals on M83 really derive and can make some beautiful synth pop and stuff. So just to me, where you have some of these tracks that connect and whatnot, I love that, and that's really, really good artistry in it. To me, towards the end of the record, that's where it just starts to fall off a little bit, where I'm like, okay, there's some things I'm like, you could definitely like put in either B-sides or something else, where it's like, all right, you don't necessarily need to have the entire thing out there, because it just drags on a bit for it. And I think other bands, MGMTs, some of their conceptual records, M83s for sure, do a better job of that, where because synth pop can very easily be samey in that regard and be like, oh,
Yes, because
okay,
synth pop is
like
pulling and has always pulled. I really like, I don't know if you're even doing this on purpose, but you're specifically in mentioning both MGMT and M83. You're mentioning that M83 has done a better job of creating variation within their albums within the sound. Because I think while MGMT has very memorable songs, and you know, live, I mentioned this last year when me and Ghost producer Kyle saw
yeah, saw it
them
live.
live, and they did like an electronic sort of spin to what they were doing. Like they're definitely talented musicians. They're definitely forward thinking what they do. But
Extremely forward thinking. Yeah.
when you look back at the albums that made them the most famous, I think even maybe they would admit this, with, you know, hindsight being 2020. Those were albums that their legendary status is driven by their lead singles as opposed to their broad performance as a record. Whereas like a true classic is one where you know their lead singles because they're so ubiquitous, and then you get invited as a result of that to the record, and you just jump into an iceberg, like a rabbit hole, like a complete sort of like, oh, this is, not only is this album really good, but it's really good on multiple listens, it's really good in multiple vibes, and it's also the culmination of real tangible efforts and experiences in a career. That's experience you get listening to like Radiohead's In Rainbows, or Arctic Monkeys' AM, or Gorillaz' Demon Days, like whatever is the most mainstream record from an avant-garde artist. The reason they're successful is because just the sound of it invites you to dig deeper into like a larger, bigger thing. Here, yeah, like I think there's some like outstanding songs on here, but the song, like the rest of the album itself, isn't so outstanding that if I didn't know a little bit about Magdalena Bay beforehand, I would want to dig into more of that discography, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think it's just, it suffers just from the choice of the theme and the concept of it, because again, it's very, very hard to pull off in a way that isn't off-putting in that regard. I mean, they toe the line the entire record with that, but I think there's some beautiful tracks in here and really good production and whatnot, and you can easily hear their influences and
Here,
stuff
there.
in this record. Here, there, forever, here, there. Overall, I think it's a good record. I just think it's drawn out a bit too much, which is a shame. Where I think this could have been it. That's that difference between a good record and a great record. It's like the little things like that. But for a second LP, right? We always talk about the second album, Curse. And even though I don't remember listening to Mercury.
I think this
World
would probably be their
but-
third, because Little Rhythm and A Wicked Feeling may be their first. Mercurial World be their second. The mini mixes, we'll call those mixtapes. But Imaginal Disc, even if it's not the second album, the Curse. A third album, especially if, to be fair, I haven't really listened deeply to the second album. I'm not sure if you, Sean, have either. But a third album, whether a second album is good or not, is still like a how do you define yourself as a band in the long term kind of play. And this wasn't a failure by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are a lot of things I wish it could have done better, and there's like some discipline in like song choice and how we structure the album, and definitely a lot of the visual motifs that could have been done better. But thankfully, the visuals don't ruin the music too much, and the music is really good. And it's less like the music that I do get is bad. It's just more like there's some outstanding stuff on here that's complemented and sandwiched by some things that are more generic. Not generic, but like things that I've seen a lot of that don't really put Magdalena Bay on a pedestal in any sort of different way. But there is almost as much stuff in here that does do that and does make them really interesting. And because I'm a music pervert, I will listen to them a little bit more on my own time to kind of like figure out more of their sound and where they come with. The track Kill Shot, which was like their probably most famous one beforehand, is really great. And I think Killing Time in the second track has some sonic and thematic sort of, callbacks to that, which is just smart to do if you have a breakout song like that. With the way TikTok and social media is, maybe one of these songs like sort of breaks out and becomes like super big after the fact, many years after the fact. You never know that. I immediately right now don't think that any of these songs are going to be like, breakout outstanding, but I could be wrong. That said, this is still a good record from some talented people that I think if they had gone for a 40-minute record, I would be a lot less wavering in this review.
For sure. I agree with that.
Yeah. Arbitrary Scale.
Let's do it.
This week we are doing alternative names for the Utah Hockey Club, because our review is our review. Rather than giving you a ranking system or a numbering system, we'll tell you exactly how we feel about the record and then highlight that with a confusing ranking system. So this week, I am going to choose for this one. I'm going to go with the Utah Outlaws, because it's not a bad name. It's just also not a good name for this team. Right? Like
there's
I think of Utah. I think of Mitt Romney in a J. Crew button-up white shirt and a black tie, riding a bike with a smile. I don't see that as Outlaw. I'm sorry. Thanks for playing. Colorado, you could run Outlaw. Wyoming, you could run Outlaw. Utah, you could run a car wash. Right? So like, you're not an outlaw. I'm sorry. God bless you. Outlaw, you are not. Just embrace it. In the words of, I forget his name, and that would have been offensive anyways. Anyway, so yeah, that's gonna be my Utah Outlaws.
All right, sweet. This will be my Utah Venom.
I was gonna pick that too.
That's it's kind of random, right? It doesn't fit necessarily. Not a horrible name. Could be worse. Could be the Storm and Mormons. But
would have been a better name for Arizona, honestly, because I would have thought like they'd be like
Arizona Venom would have gone. Actually, that would have gone hard too. That would have gone real hard.
Venom.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit the state. Like, your state's boring. It's got nothing really except some ski slopes and shit and taxes. That's about it.
Utah Squares. Is that part of America where like all the land is divided into like perfect squares? Because there was just like land was so boring and flat, like it was just a theory. It's not like one of the coastal not to brag, but it's not like Oregon, Washington, or California where like there's actual land worth a damn to consider because you're on the coast, right? Like it's not one of those operations. It's more like a, okay, well, this exists and there's some mountain range we got to consider, but and there's some plains that are gonna get really muggy and disgusting during the summer. But yeah, we're just gonna square it up and give you some plots and we'll see where it goes. Also, the Mormons are gonna be doing the control over that, but that's gonna be that. Anyways, quick hits. Let's do quick hits. We are getting my window open. Sorry. We always have to end audio face on a fun note, and folks, especially on the politics side, will be aware of the inshitification of social media platforms, where social media platforms, in their increasing sort of like trial to get more advertising money, will go for lowest common denominator strategies to retain users. Whatever, like, oh, this is something that's like not good content, but people will react and discuss and engage and comment and send messages to people about like, oh, see this terrible thing, and that'll get people using the product. And so let's promote that in the algorithm and let's make that to be a good time, right? Sounds good, doesn't work. The media industry is in shambles. The bigger media platforms, like, or the bigger media outlets like New York Times or Hollywood Reporter, whatever, they're on their last legs. The smaller ones are now a lot of small media companies now becoming worker cooperatives all of a sudden. And I wonder where they got the idea from. And I'm not saying they got the idea from me. I'm just saying that the conditions that working in media will basically lead you to like one of two places, and I got there first. So welcome, suckers. Have fun losing money. Have fun losing money, and if I were you, get business insurance. So that said, we are now learning that one of the lead inshitifiers, Elon Musk, and his spite purchase of Twitter to make it more reflective of his personal and increasingly conservative worldview, did not have the money or the cash on hand, because that's not truly how billionaire wealth works. And so he solicited a group of investing and buying partners to give him the seed capital, the loan money, so to speak, so that $44 billion of X, formerly known as Twitter.com, to make that purchase happen. Turns out, now that we have seen some of the listings and there's court proceedings, because in traditional Elon Musk fashion, he has not paid back the people he owes money to. We've now seen in court filings some larger list of shareholders for this Elon Musk funded X.com, which includes the billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, Saudi Arabian prince Al-Walid bin Talal Al-Saud, and one Sean Diddy Combs.
Oh,
things that make you go,
That's I think he was in some news recently wasn't he?
So Elon Musk, a man who cares about, he thinks that white people are being replaced in society. He cares a lot about kids and protecting kids. And he thinks that the left is grooming kids to be gay or trans or all these other different things. Elon Musk literally took money from his latest business venture from a known groomer, abuser of children, and a PDF file. Allegedly, although I'm not sure how much more you can use the word allegedly when these court cases keep piling up. And as is often the case in these matters, the person who is accused is not acting in the way an innocent person would. There are ways an innocent person would handle a ridiculous set of charges lodged against them, and it would be very calmly and very coolly and through the legal papers. And then we would just like read an article 2 years later that says, oh, there's a settlement out of court, or, case closed or whatever. No. This is Diddy very much like not acting as though he's innocent in this, which is, information that is public that we are all taking in as a result. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the filing, which resulted in a victory for the plaintiffs. So Elon Musk will now have to pay the money that he has not paid, including arbitration fees over the purchase of X. One of the people making that money will be Diddy. So if you happen to be someone who subscribes to morals or values or anything like that, and you don't want any of your money or your interests going into something that goes into the abuse of and exploitation of young people, many of them Black, many of them women, but also, men and non-Black folks as well, just overall exploitation and abuse of people that has been well documented and alleged by Diddy, maybe stop using X.com. Maybe stop using Twitter. Maybe stop using Elon Musk's things. Maybe stop celebrating him as some sort of successful alkalite, as though he doesn't have smart employees who are doing his work for him. And instead, let's just see Elon Musk as he really is, as someone who at the very least needs to be taxed more, and at the very most should get the treatment from the French Revolution. This has been Audio Face. What does it mean to play us out?
Jesus Christ. Oh, that was beautiful.
That's one of those Dan from the Internet classics right there.
That's just one of those, just like, oh, beautiful.
That's a full circle moment. What does it mean to play us out? Frankly, I don't know. You can find this here good. Oh!
This is like Matty Healy pulling Matty Healy from the deck. You need to get pulled out now.
Yeah. Before I start just eating slabs of raw meat on stage. This has been Audio Face. Thank you very much for listening and watching through our 8th year of the show. You can follow us on social media if you're a freak. We've tried social media a bunch of times on Audio Face. It's just bad, and we're just continually being proven of that. So instead, join us on our owned and operated platforms, audioface.show. You can become a Syndicate 23 member if you are able to and you are so inclined, and you'll get all episodes of the Audio Face backlog, the banned episodes, understand all the references that we danced around in this one, and you will love that. Audioface.show for all those things. You'll get the PowerPoint episodes as well. Don't find Sean. Don't find me at this point. But we'll see you next week, and we'll see you later on in general for this year of great music that we're about to have. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers. I cut the music off. There you go.
Hey.